in the headlines of this hour on VTV News. National Assembly discusses draft law amending 7 laws. And agricultural exports expected to reach over $60 billion this year. In our world news, let's see how the U.S. election results caused the market to shift.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good afternoon. It is 3 p.m. local time in Hanoi, and you're watching VTV News. I'm Huyền Trân with the top stories. On Thursday, the National Assembly discussed the draft law amending and supplementing a number of articles in the following laws: the securities laws, the accounting law, the independent audit law, the state budget law, the law on management and use of public property, the tax administration law, and the law on national reserves. More to follow.
At the discussion, deputies stressed the need to amend 7 laws to address emerging changes and practical demands. Some called for a careful review of the provisions to avoid contradictions and overlaps.
Clauses 3 of Article 16 and 2 of Article 17 decentralize the management of public property. However, later articles give the government and People's Council authority over subordinate agencies in the management and use of public property. This creates overlap. I recommend reviewing the regulations to avoid contradictions.
The statute of limitations for administrative violations in independent auditing is set at 5 years, which contradicts Article 6 of the Law on Handling Administrative Violations, where it is specified as 2 years. I recommend revising this provision to ensure consistency with the principles of administrative law.
Commenting on regulations regarding stock market manipulation, some deputies advised against criminalizing civil economic relations. They also recommended considering the penalty levels and statute of limitations for violations in auditing activities.
Recent investigations into major cases have revealed that some agencies and auditors are responsible for falsifying audit reports. While I agree that penalties should be strengthened and the statute of limitations extended for serious violations, it is important to ensure that these measures are proportionate to the nature and impact of the offenses and aligned with other relevant regulations.
The National Assembly then discussed the revised electricity law.
The 8th Greater Mekong Sub-Region GMS Cooperation Summit officially opened in Yunnan Province, China on Thursday morning. Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh led a high-level Vietnamese delegation to the summit at the invitation of Chinese Premier Li Qiang. Now, at the summit, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh delivered a significant speech summarizing 5 key lessons from 32 years of GMS cooperation and highlighting a strategic direction for the mechanism's new development phase. The Prime Minister emphasized that it is time for GMS to focus on developing next-generation economic corridors, centering on innovation and going beyond the limitations of traditional models. He also proposed 3 core elements for these corridors: technology and innovation, economic growth, and green, sustainable, and inclusive development. The Prime Minister also affirmed Vietnam's commitment to continuing close cooperation with GMS members and development partners to build an innovative, dynamic, and sustainable Greater Mekong Sub-Region. Vietnam's import-export sector show strong growth, accelerating toward year-end. This is considered one of the key highlights of the country's economic landscape over the past 10 months. Now, according to the General Statistics Office, total trade turnover for the past 10 months exceeded $647 billion, up nearly 16% compared to the same period last year. Notably, strong export growth led to a trade surplus of over $23.3 billion. Currently, 31 product categories have achieved export values exceeding $1 billion, accounting for nearly 93% of total export turnover. Agriculture, forestry, and fishery products remain core export items, with an estimated turnover close to $52 billion. The United States is Vietnam's largest export market, while China is the largest source of imports. And many experts anticipate that this year's import-export turnover will set a new record. Now, on Wednesday, the General Statistics Office released the October and year-to-date socio-economic report. The report highlights positive results across various sectors, including a stable macroeconomics, controlled inflation, robust export growth, active foreign direct investment disbursement, and high industrial production growth.
Foreign trade has been the standout of Vietnam's macroeconomic performance over the past 10 months, reaching over $647 billion, a 15.8% increase compared to the same period last year. This strong export growth has contributed to a trade surplus exceeding $23.3 billion. Notably, 31 products have achieved export values of over $1 billion each, accounting for 92.6% of total export turnover.
Textile and garment enterprises have benefited from lower input costs and an increase in orders, thanks to favorable conditions in the global market.
Economic indicators have shown faster than expected growth. This supports our optimistic forecast that Vietnam's GDP growth could exceed 7%, marking the highest rate in the ASEAN region.
Stable macroeconomics and a continuously improving business environment has contributed to the disbursement of FDI, estimated at nearly $19.6 billion since the beginning of the year, an 8.8% increase over the same period. The Industrial Production Index also saw impressive growth, reaching 8.3%. Effective price control has kept the average 10-month consumer price index increase at just 3.78%, staying within target limits. Total state budget revenue for the past 10 months reached over $63 billion, nearly meeting the annual revenue forecast.
These results reflect the strong efforts of the party, state, government, businesses, and citizens amid global instability. Positive trends across sectors in the past 10 months are crucial for achieving annual growth targets.
Notably, international arrivals reached 14.1 million, a 41.3% increase year-on-year. These outcomes bolster expectations for the economy to exceed $500 billion next year, enhancing Vietnam's regional and global standing.
Total registered foreign investment in Vietnam over the past 10 months reached more than $27 billion, an increase of nearly 2% compared to the same period last year, according to data from the General Statistics Office. Foreign direct investment FDI implemented in Vietnam during this period is estimated at $19.58 billion, up 8.8% year-on-year. Singapore was the largest investor, accounting for nearly 33% of new registered capital, followed by South Korea and China. The manufacturing and processing industry attracted the largest amount of new FDI capital, representing over 64% of total new registered capital. Meanwhile, real estate activities accounted for more than 21%, and other sectors made up the remaining 14.5%. Vietnam's agricultural exports have continued to grow strongly since the beginning of the year. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development forecasts that this year will see the highest agricultural export turnover in the country's history.
The use of refrigerated containers has ensured the quality of coconuts during overseas shipment to China. The Vietnam Coconut Association predicts that coconut exports to China could reach $250 million this year.
Our fresh coconuts have great potential, and we've developed an excellent variety structure. Currently, the taste of Vietnamese coconuts is highly praised.
The surge in durian exports, along with a more than 30% increase in fruit and vegetable exports compared to last year, has significantly contributed to this success.
Vietnam's high-end rice varieties have maintained strong prices, while coffee exports have reached an all-time high of 4.6 billion USD. These favorable market conditions and robust demand have bolstered the agricultural sector's confidence, prompting it to aim for the new milestone of over 60 billion USD in export value this year.
Input costs are decreasing. While the war presents both challenges and opportunities, we have a well-established agricultural supply chain with crop production, livestock, veterinary services, and aquaculture, all tightly interconnected.
October witnessed a robust recovery in the northern agricultural regions previously affected by Typhoon Yagi. Key vegetable and seafood production areas are now gearing up to supply produce for the upcoming Lunar New Year holiday.
The State Bank of Vietnam has announced a lending program for the 1 million hectare high-quality, low-emission rice project in the Mekong Delta. The Vietnam Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development will spearhead the pilot phase until the end of 2025, after which other banks will join for the expansion phase through 2030.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has secured 500 million USD in funding from the World Bank after Vietnam was selected for a key project in the Asia-Pacific region. Additional funds will come from carbon credit revenue and, crucially, bank credit. The Vietnam Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, AgriBank, has also prepared to offer loans.
We selected 24 cooperatives and enterprises, 9 of which have opened accounts to apply for loan services.
Banks report that capital allocation is not an issue. However, to speed up progress, it is essential for localities to release the list of designated areas, businesses, and cooperatives participating in the project.
Provincial and city people's committees should establish production cost norms based on technical standards for cultivation to determine loan limits, as production costs vary across localities.
Vietnam is the first country to implement large-scale emission reductions in rice cultivation. Since the processes are new and lack a specific framework, successful completion of the project requires collaboration from all parties involved.
The State Bank of Vietnam, in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and the governments of 12 provinces and cities in the Mekong Delta, held a conference to launch the Preferential lending program for the 1 million hectare high-quality, low-emission rice project in the region. The event took place on Thursday morning in Dong Tháp province. Credit organizations reported a lack of specific legal mechanisms to implement preferential credit packages for the project effectively and swiftly. So in response, the State Bank of Vietnam has coordinated with ministries, sectors, and local authorities in the Mekong Delta to develop and issue the Preferential lending program. As a result, in the first 3 quarters of this year, total outstanding loans for the rice sector in the Mekong Delta reached over $4.8 billion, up 18% from the end of last year. And to implement the preferential loan package, loan recipients must be quickly identified, while banks need to mobilize and diversify resources domestically and internationally. Now, before we move on to other important updates, let's take a look at the foreign exchange rate of today, November 7th. Coming up next on VTV News. Shortage of land hampers housing construction in ethnic regions. And Tuyên Quang leverages hot springs for tourism development. Now moving on to other news. Providing housing support to poor and near-poor households in ethnic group areas aims to address multi-dimensional poverty and stabilize people's lives. However, the number of households eligible for land allocation for housing falls far short of the actual demand. This shortage of land has hindered the Sustainable Poverty Reduction Program in the Central Highlands.
Thi Truan's temporary house, assembled from makeshift wooden planks, has deteriorated significantly over the past 15 years. As a poor household eligible for housing support under the 3 Solid House program, solid ground, solid wall and solid roofs, her family has been unable to receive assistance because they live on agricultural land.
When it rains, we can't stay here because water floods the house. I just hope to have a proper home where my children can find shelter from the sun and rain.
In Đắk Nông province, over 1,000 out of 6,000 households are in urgent need of housing. However, the local authorities have only managed to provide homes for 359 households so far. The remaining families either lack land for housing or possess land that doesn't meet legal requirements.
Some households have not yet obtained land use certificates. Additionally, some families are living on forest land, while others hold land titles for agricultural land, but the land is currently pledged to a bank, preventing them from transferring the title for housing purposes.
We have multiple channels for housing support, including the National Target Program and socialized funding. Recently, the central government allocated an additional $840,000 to address temporary and dilapidated housing. However, we are still unable to fully support housing construction for the people.
Despite numerous preferential policies implemented through economic and social development programs in ethnic and mountainous regions, land allocation for poor and near-poor households in the Central Highlands remains a significant challenge.
Ninh Thuận Province is mobilizing all resources to eliminate temporary and dilapidated houses for the poor. The goal is to support more than 1,900 houses by the end of next year, including building over 1,600 new houses. The estimated total cost is over $8 million. Now, according to the Vietnam Fatherland Front Committee of Ninh Thuận Province, the percentage of poor and near-poor households in the province remains relatively high compared to the national average. Over 1,600 households are currently struggling with housing difficulties, living in temporary, degraded and damaged homes, and facing many challenges in their daily lives. Last year, nearly 250 houses were built and handed over, and this year 500 houses are under construction. Each house is valued at a minimum of $3,900. Adopted in 2018, the National Action Plan for Zero Hunger in Vietnam by 2025 aims to prevent food loss and waste by incorporating strategies to improve food production, storage, distribution, and consumer practices in the country. Now, in a joint effort with Vietnam's government, many individuals and organizations have implemented various models for surplus food processing that generate environmental and social benefits. Join us in the following report to discover what nonprofit organization Viet Harvest is doing to inspire and educate people about food waste, food security, and sustainability.
3 times a week, Viet Harvest young members visit local hotels, caterers, restaurants, and charitable organizations to collect quality surplus food and redistribute it to underserved communities. All surplus food is made in fine dining restaurants and top eateries and given away for free.
We prioritize the quality of surplus food, so we only work with food suppliers who implement good preservation methods. That's why we have coordinated with fine dining restaurants and top eateries for many years.
We've always been concerned about our partners' professionalism in ensuring food safety standards. It's incredible to work with such exemplary partners.
Although fine dining restaurants and luxury hotels have strict regulations about food safety and encourage their customers to reduce food waste, they still face significant amounts of leftover prepared food due to unpredictable consumer demand. In addition to offering discounts to their employees, these restaurants and hotels are willing to donate surplus food to those in need. Before Viet Harvest collects and transfers the surplus food to refrigerated trucks, it must be properly stored under good conditions.
I was worried at first. However, Viet Harvest's safe food transportation and preservation system has earned my trust, leading to our ongoing collaboration. Our core value is sustainability and a green lifestyle, so we've implemented various ways to reduce food waste.
After more than 2 years of operation, our models have proven effective. Many restaurants and businesses have maintained contact with Viet Harvest to give away food.
Since its founding in 2020, Viet Harvest has collected nearly 45 tons of unused food, enough to provide 90,000 meals for people in need. The organization is now planning to establish a new branch in Ho Chi Minh City to further support underserved communities.
According to the Geology Department, Vietnam is home to nearly 400 hot mineral springs. Many localities have transformed these natural wonders into tourist attractions, diversifying and expanding their tourism offerings. Let's visit Tuan Quang City in Tuan Quang Province, where a hot mineral springs reaches temperatures of almost 70 degrees Celsius, to learn more.
Nguyen has been dealing with osteoarthritis for years. Recently, she visited this hospital and hot spring resort to focus on her health.
This is my second visit. My condition has improved since I soaked my feet in the mineral spring and drank the water.
Using the current mineral water source, we treat bone and joint diseases, skin conditions, and ailments with post-traumatic effects. We also offer physical therapy with modern equipment and incorporate traditional medicine for a comprehensive treatment approach.
With a 150-meter deep mineral water source and temperatures of up to nearly 70 degrees Celsius, the hot spring offers Tuan Quang Province a unique opportunity to develop health tourism, attracting visitors to create therapeutic experiences rooted in natural resources and local culture.
This mineral water and mud source are separate. We plan to add bungalows and homestays to attract international visitors.
The province has attracted major investors to build resorts, amusement parks, and golf courses, offering tourists a variety of options to enjoy mineral baths, sports, relaxation, and exposure to local culture and cuisine.
Health tourism has diversified Tuan Quang's offerings, extending tourist stays and increasing their spending. The province plans to implement policies encouraging investment in high-quality health tourism, maximizing its hot mineral spring resources.
Now, in the first 10 months of this year, Vietnam welcomed more than 14.1 million international tourists, up 41% compared to the same period last year. Asian markets contributed nearly 80% of the total number of international visitors to Vietnam. Four markets, South Korea, China, Taiwan, China, and Japan, accounted for nearly 60% of visitors. European markets also show a positive growth, with key markets like the UK, France, and Germany increasing by 20 to 30%. These markets benefit from a unilateral visa exemption policy, allowing stays of up to 45 days in Vietnam. Coming up next in our world news. Let's see how the latest U.S. election results affect the market. And Hurricane Rafael strikes Cuba with strong winds. Now moving on to our world news. According to the latest election results, Republican candidate Donald Trump is projected to win with 295 electoral votes, while Democratic candidate Kamala Harris is expected to secure 226. Following Trump's victory announcement on November 6th, U.S. stock markets surged.
I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated
Kamala Harris maintained a positive tone as she accepted defeat, emphasizing a peaceful transfer of power in a speech in Washington, D.C. In addition to securing the White House, the Republican Party has also regained control of the Senate with at least 52 out of 100 seats, though the final vote count is still pending. The results for the House of Representatives are expected to be announced in the coming days. By the close of trading on November 6, all three major indices on Wall Street had posted strong gains. In contrast, European stock markets saw losses due to concerns that Trump's return to the White House could lead to higher tariffs on European goods. Asian stock markets largely declined as of Thursday morning, as investors expressed worries about rising tensions over security and trade during a potential second Trump administration. Meanwhile, the US dollar has been trending upward following the news of Trump's victory. In the energy markets, global oil prices have been under pressure, declining as a result of the strengthening US dollar.
The Australian government is set to propose a law banning social media use for children under 16. This ban will be absolute with no exceptions, even with parental consent. Service providers will need to implement measures to prevent access for children in this age group. And the ban will affect platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X, formerly known as Twitter. YouTube, Alphabet's video sharing service, may also fall under this new rule. However, it's likely to receive some exemptions due to its importance as an educational tool. Hurricane Rafael made landfall in Cuba on November 6th with maximum winds of 185 kilometers per hour, equivalent to a Category 3 storm on the 5-level scale. The storm is expected to strengthen further as it moves towards western Cuba, including the capital Havana, bringing up flooding and storm surges that threaten lives. Thousands of residents in coastal towns, along with the storm's predicted path, have been evacuated. Cuban authorities have suspended air traffic in the western region, temporarily closed schools, and halted public transport services. More than 2,500 suspects have been arrested and over 3,000 victims have been rescued from human trafficking rings in the latest operation by the International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol. Interpol described this as the largest operation of its kind, with police forces from around the world participating. The rescue victims, including children, women, and men from various countries, have been forced into labor, trafficked into brothels, or subjected to extremely harsh living conditions. Now, as usual, let's move on to the weather forecast. And that's all the news we have for this hour. To rewatch our program, you can download our mobile app VTVgo or check out our YouTube channel, VTV4Go. Thank you for watching and see you next time.